This woman that I'm talking about that has
Same
a
for about
house
the
at the.
90 acres. 2021 or something like that, right? It was part of a,
I think so, from a developer who
Yeah.
bought it from her. And the developer wanted to put 5 huge
Oh, good.
residences.
Right, so now it's the other way around, right? It's
For
like,
whatever reason, I didn't get into it. They abandoned the project and resold the land to Stanford. And probably Stanford got a good deal in 2021. Out of the pandemic and stuff. Yeah. The backyard there.
Oh, the applicants are
They're
all.
We have at least the first applicant online.
Good. I
Must
think
be
we
about
should.
that.
yeah, exactly. You can tell the crowds are.
All right, Julie, you ready? Okay.
thank you for setting us up, Joel.
This is the call to order for the January 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Town of Woodside Planning Commission. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please call the roll.
Chair Weaver,
Present.
Vice Chair Gar, Commissioner Apfel,
Present.
Commissioner Gonerko,
Here.
and Commissioner Tauber.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
We will move on to the public comment period for items that are not on tonight's agenda. If there is anyone online that wishes to comment on a topic of concern to the Town of Woodside or its Planning Commission, but which is not on tonight's agenda, this is your opportunity to do so. We will limit it to 5 speakers, 3 minutes each. And is there any such person online? Please raise your hand. Electronically, that is.
We have no raised hands online.
Okay, we will close the public comment period and move on to the first item on the agenda.
With the consent calendar, and there are 2 sets of minutes on the consent calendar.
Do any of the commissioners wish to make any corrections or comments on the 2 sets of minutes on the consent calendar?
None for me.
Do you want to speak into the microphone, Alex?
Helpful. Once I get this linked, there we go. Perfect. I got it. I'm good. Thank you. I do have some comments. I don't have any comments with regards to the June 26 minutes, but I do have some comments with regards to the November 6 minutes. And after reading the comments, I just want to clarify my my comments. David Middleman spoke about passing the ordinance promptly despite any deficiencies so that the town would have a compliant housing element, quote unquote. And I just want to state for the record that I could not disagree more with that statement. While I think good cannot be the enemy of perfect, there are 2 items that I spoke to, which are septic and the concern for fire danger in my comments. And I think with regards to septic, especially in the high slope areas, we depend on septic from the county as far as ordinances. And the alternative is septics that don't work. So I don't think deficiencies in that could be easily lived with. And then with regards to fire danger in high slope areas, there is the chimney effect, which is fires move up. And I'm very sensitive to the fact of granting variances or relaxing constraints when it creates a higher fire danger. And I just want to state that for the record.
Are you requesting that the minutes be, your comments in the minutes be elaborated to address those 2 points?
Sure, I've captured those and I can add them to the minutes.
With the proviso that those two items are added to Commissioner Tauber's comments at the November meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the two sets of minutes on the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Chair Weaver,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gar,
Yes.
Commissioner Apfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonerico,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tauber.
Given the approval of the consent calendar, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a zoning, not a zoning variance, but a setback variance for, or a setback exception for 1385 Kenyatta Road. And I believe staff has a presentation on that.
Hello and thank you. Tonight I'll be presenting the setback exception at 1385 Kenyatta Road for Planning Commission review. So this is a presentation for setback exception to construct a new pool equipment and a covered barbecue area into the required front and side setbacks. And this project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, guidelines 15303, section E, which is new construction of small structures that also includes swimming pools. And we received no desk items, and the applicant informed us that story poles were installed at least 10 days before today. So to give you a background on the property, it's in the SR zoning district and is approximately 4.18 acres. And as you can see here, the lot is pretty constrained as this is a very long and narrow lot. And the property stems off as a private driveway off the main road, which is Kenyatta Road, and extends all the way down to the creek on the northern side. This is the existing topographic survey. And again, just going back to this, the southern portion where the house is currently existing, as well as the other accessory structures on site, that is the flatter portion of the site. And as you move towards the north side, that's when the elevation moves or elevation declines significantly. This is just showing the main residence portion as it is today. There's also the existing site plan, also shows in red what is proposed to be demolished as a part of this project. So for the proposed site plan, we have the pool that would be encroaching approximately 18.63 feet into the required 50-foot setback, but would still meeting the setback exception minimum of 30 feet for the front side. And the proposed pool equipment over here would encroach approximately 4.64 feet into the required 20-foot setback, and it would still meet the minimum exceptions, 15 feet for the side. And the same applies for the covered barbecue area on this side here, which would approximately encroach 5 feet into that setback, basic setback. So this is the section view of the pool equipment. As staff noted in the staff report, we will work with the applicant to remove the trash enclosure outside of the public utility easement in an area that is not immediately located next to the adjacent properties or within any other roadway easements, again, subject to approval by town staff. This is the section for the barbecue. It includes that overhang cover. So the applicant also provided sections for the pool. It also includes a spa on this side. And renderings were also provided by the applicant, starting with the pool equipment that is buried partially into that existing grade here, as well as the renderings for the proposed pool and for the covered barbecue area. So, and the applicant also brought um, physical material samples to town staff, which is before you, Planning Commission tonight. And for the people on screen, these are the materials that are proposed for the project. So the Woodside Municipal Code, section 153.207, lists the findings that the Planning Commission shall make to approve a setback exception. The municipal code requires that finding 1A, 1B, or 1C be made in addition to findings 2 to 5 to approve the setback exception. And to summarize some of the findings that the applicant has made, they included that locating the pool and necessary equipment to the front of the house would not require the removal of any trees or disturb any natural areas. Also, an outdoor cooking facility, barbecue in the proposed location is not close to the neighboring residents on the southeast, and this boundary is already well screened. And that the pool, equipment, and barbecue area at the front of the house is further away from the riparian and wooded areas at the rear portion of the property, and is also consistent with the town's general plan. And as part of the findings from the applicant, they have provided the neighborhood conformity to the neighboring properties. It's a neighborhood setback analysis exhibit addressing sub-finding C in that finding 1 that I mentioned earlier. And they note the setback measurements of the various properties in the surrounding area, including structures that do not comply with the required setbacks, and that they properly demonstrate the existing setback pattern of the surrounding neighborhood. So it meets the neighborhood conformity. And as far as findings from planning, recommended findings for approval from planning include that the proposed project will be located on a relatively flat portion of a lot that is constrained by its width and steep slopes at the rear of the property, and that the proposed project uses will be located in the existing developed lawn that is sufficiently set back from the neighboring properties and is designed to also maintain privacy between the subject site and as well as the adjacent site, and that the proposed setback exception is consistent with the general plan policies, open space 1.1, policy conservation 1.1, and policy conservation 1.2. And I also attached those as part of this presentation slide here. And basically these policies are for preserving undisturbed portions of the site and limiting site grading and utilizing previously disturbed land, and also being located away from that designated stream corridor along that northern portion of the site. And so that concludes my presentation. Staff is happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is also on Zoom to answer any questions. Thank you.
We'll start down at Matt's end. You have any questions for Kigo?
I'm going to hold off until the applicant's presentation.
We can wait and hold off until the applicant presentation. Oh, yeah.
Just the mic.
Just a clarification under page 3 property description, and I'm just a little confused. And I'll read you the quote, property description, first paragraph, it's the bottom part. And it says, an ADU has recently been permitted at the southwest corner of the site under a separate permit. However, the plans submitted for this project include an expansion of the approved ADU building to include a pool equipment storage, which cannot be permitted with this setback exception application. The next sentence is the one that confuses me, and it reads, recommended condition for approval 1G requires the removal of any changes made for the ADU that have not been permitted. Can you just clarify? I was just a little confused to that. If you can just clarify, that would be awesome.
Sure. So, let's see here. So it's in relation to this, specifically talking about this pool equipment storage here, this portion that is proposed, but wasn't part of this ADU permit. And so we request that the applicant work with staff to move this somewhere else that's not encroaching into that front setback. So it's this portion right here. That's
What's going to happen to it then?
It will have to go to another location. So
Okay.
they'll work with staff or they can just remove it.
So that's still a question mark in all this.
It's just that that part was not permitted as part of the ADU. This is going further into the front setback than the setback exception would allow. It's not for the ADU itself, so we can't use ADU exceptions. And so therefore, whereas the ADU has already been permitted, this was not part of that.
Got it.
And so they need to either remove it or work with staff to relocate it in another position where that meets with the setbacks.
Got it. So after today, I assume that this passes. This is still TBD.
That the location of that would be something that would just have to meet setbacks. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Location of that, meaning the,
Sorry, just that little front bump out there that's hatched.
okay.
So the ADU itself
Sure, it's on
stays,
record.
that's all permitted. They've went through the building permit process to receive approvals for that, just not that piece. And we just can't permit it in that location.
Clear, thank you.
And I had one quick clarification question. There's an existing trash bin enclosure area, correct? Or that would be new?
It is proposed. It's a new trash enclosure. However, it's in that public utilities easement. So we're also going to be working with the applicant to remove that away from that public utility easement as well.
And is the trash enclosure, does that have to be out of the setback?
It does not. So it's essentially a fence. So fences can be located in setbacks.
Okay.
So they can move, they just need to move it outside of any of the easement areas. And also typically, we don't want these trash enclosures to be pushed right up against a neighboring property line. So that's why we have the condition the way it reads now. So they can work with staff to find somewhere. It could be in the setbacks, but just another location, and it's essentially a fence.
Okay, and then a more broad question beyond this particular application. When you talk about a fence around a trash enclosure, I know in Woodside we like open fencing. Do we make an exception for trash enclosures where, I mean, presumably the idea is to hide the bins?
Yeah, definitely. Often we'll see solid fencing for trash enclosures.
Okay.
The main need for the open fence is kind of more of your perimeter fencing and
Right, yeah,
those things.
yeah.
But yes, a solid fence could definitely be used for the trash enclosure.
All right, gotcha. Thank you.
So for clarification regarding that pool equipment, so there is no pool on the property in the front of the house, right?
That's correct.
So that pool equipment area at the top there, that is existing?
That is proposed.
I thought the pool equipment location for proposed is supposed to be on the more to the right.
That was something that the applicant mislabeled on one of the sheets.
Oh,
And so they'll need to correct that sheet.
oh. Okay, so the correct placement is on
That's correct.
on
yeah.
this drawing, right?
Correct, just right
Not
there.
the one closer to the house.
That's correct. That's what's being proposed.
The
by-
barbecue is correct? It's
That-
closer to the house,
The barbecue is in the location being
the
proposed.
southwest, okay, right there? Okay.
Have any further commissioner questions for staff? Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the applicant presentation.
So I think Peter will share a presentation, but maybe a little bit about myself. I am the applicant. My name is Mina Resk. I'm assuming you guys can hear me good?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So thanks, obviously, for this maybe chance to speak here. It's we recently moved to Woodside about 1.5 years ago, so this is new for us. We are a family of 5, my wife and I, and 3 kids, 8, 11, and 13-year-old. So far, we love it. We love the environment. We love the natural surrounding, and frankly, most importantly, the sense of the community that we have. So we really love Woodside so far, and we hope to continue staying here, and we truly feel at home. Now, regarding the goal for this project, fundamentally is to create, a space in the backyard where we can spend time together as a family and with friends. Our vision is to have the pool, the barbecue area that really enhances our home and provides more of like a space for entertainment and also relax as well as exercising in the pool. Now, regarding the application here, the western side of the property is fundamentally ideal for this project. Our home is oriented towards the Western Hills, and this area aligns very well with the rest of the house. It gets the best views, it gets the most sunlight, and it complements the layout of the house in general inside. We believe that placing the pool and the barbecue in this area is probably the most functional and harmonious for our property. And while still maintaining, as was mentioned earlier, maintaining the integrity of the surrounding and without causing any disturbance to the neighbors. That's all, I guess, from my side, but maybe Peter, our architect, maybe has some comments or can go more into the details of the plan, but I just want to make sure that I can address this and introduce myself.
Thank you.
Well, commissioners, and thank you for your service. This site, as you can see on this site plan, is very long and it's very constrained. The distinction of the front setback being really normally what is a side setback is what's one of the things that's odd about the site and its configuration of what it is. This whole area is really in, I don't know if you can get up. I don't know if I can draw on this one. We can't. I don't think you can see my cursor. You can maybe you can online.
We can see your cursor, Peter.
Yep.
Oh, you can see ours. You can see mine or
It's yours.
so the existing house, the backside of the house totally orients towards the Western Hills, and it's currently a lawn, and like Mina was saying, this is really brings everything into one zone in terms of how the house interacts. You know, the living room's on the upper side of the existing house. Studies and kitchens and everything else are on this whole side, all looking out towards the Western Hills. And this really integrates the pool with the house itself. You want to go to the next one? No, go on, next one. So we've gotten, like was mentioned by Kiko, and Sage, the ADU we've already gotten permitted. It is basically opens up just to the house, just to the pool area, and the rest in the house and the barbecue area. The barbecue area was designed to be sort of a matching symmetrical element on the site with the trellis on the other side. So it makes this forms a pretty good overall area here. The pool is like Mina says, for exercise as well as for the kids. And really does, and is very sheltered from all the neighbors. The ADU definitely does the sheltering to the neighbor to the south, or this, to the south, and everybody else is quite a bit further away. We have taken off the, in this slide, we've taken off the trash area. And we'll work with the staff as to where we put it, or don't put it. Um, and go on to the next one. I think that's about it. So this is just the paved area. And then this is the revised section for the pool equipment. The materials are all similar to the existing house. Patio is a continuation of the patios. The stone that's on the house is the same. Siding's the same. The roof's the same. So it's very much in keeping with in general with the house. And are there any questions?
I have one.
All right, Commissioner Apfel.
I believe there were no desk items, correct? And I'm curious what kind of contact and outreach and response you've had with your neighbors?
I guess this is a question for me, right?
Either or.
Yeah, I think we talk to our neighbors. They are aware that we are doing this. Almost everyone around us is aware, so I'm not aware of any, I guess, if your question is anyone said anything, no, I'm not aware of anything. They are, let's say, supportive, but that's from my point of view. No one have told us anything.
Okay, thank you.
Other commissioner questions?
So I've got a short question regarding pool equipment. Is there any plans for, or what are the plans for covering this pool equipment or minimizing any noise that comes out of the pumps, et cetera?
It is depressed into the ground, so it's about 3 or 3.5 feet in the ground. Only sticks out about 2.5 feet. There's a trellis that goes over the top of it, so all the sound is going to go up rather than out.
So I'm sorry, what is on top of it?
It's a trellis,
Trellis.
4x6s.
Okay. Trellis like that, all right. But the trellis is just made of, you said 4x6s?
Yeah.
And then the space between, and then there's openings between
They're
those.
12 inches on center, so it's fairly solid.
Mm, okay. So in my experience, I used to build custom homes and dealt with pool equipment. I've got pool equipment at my house. It makes noise, and it makes noise in the worst hours, usually early morning, and it goes on for like 5 or 6 hours. And unfortunately, you do hear it. And it's a constant like whine or hum. Have you explored any possibility of perhaps putting a wall, a small wall, maybe an L-shaped wall to the closest neighbor, which is to the south, where their house is? Maybe a
I
stucco wall.
think the only house is across the street, which is 1367.
Not that one. So, oh, yeah, that one. That's the one I'm talking about. That's correct. That's about 80, 90 feet from there.
Yeah, or 100 at least, if not more, probably 100 feet.
Okay. So, do you have any comments about my question about the wall?
We can make it more solid on that side if you'd like.
I don't think it would need to be elaborate, even a pressure treated wood wall that would whatever would work as far as your decor and the style that the house is
Okay.
in.
Sure. We can work with staff on that.
Those were my only comments.
Other commissioner questions or comments to the applicant?
I just have one. So, I mean, the design generally looks good to me. I saw that it's not really one of the core issues, but the, excuse me, the utility enclosure that is a wood gate. Just wanted to know if folks are aware of the fire restrictions these days of not being able to build any wood fences in Woodside anymore. And if that had been considered.
We can deal with that. We can deal with that with staff. It's really, that's the only places there.
Sounds good.
Oh, the one at the fence at the barbecue is stone, is covered in stone.
Awesome. Thank you. I guess as far as the noise goes, do we have any data on like the decibels of a pool equipment at 100 feet? Because that is, I see the point, but also that's quite a long distance. So if we're going to ask the applicant to make any changes, I'd be interested if we know, typical noise at that range.
We don't have the spec sheets for the pool equipment. They all generally are run about at the same level. So yeah, I mean, there could be fence there. Nothing would prohibit that from occurring.
Okay. Do we have any, are there any, I guess, code elements on what the requirements are for audio screening? Just because these things should be predictable for applicants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the fire district has a specific requirement on the material, but from zoning, there's no distinction there. Could be metal, it could be wood.
Okay. Sorry, I meant more for the noise abatement that we were.
Oh, no, there's no specific requirements to abate noise. The fact that this is partially being buried is actually kind of above and beyond what we normally see. Usually it's just on grade, close to a fence line.
There are maximum ambient noise levels outlined in the general plan under the noise element. And it's for open space exterior, it's about, or residential, it's about 55 decibels.
So to clarify, it's LDN, it's an average noise level. It's a little bit different than decibels.
Thank you.
If we are done with commissioner comments, we could open the public comment period on this particular item. Is there anyone here in the room or online that would like to comment on this item?
See no raised hands online.
Given no raised hands online nor in the room, I will close the public comment period on this item and open this item for commissioner deliberation. And we can start with Matt down at the end.
I actually have no comments. I think it seems like a very straightforward, reasonable project. I'm supportive.
All right, other Matt's turn. So, yeah, I mean, generally +1 on that. I mean, I think that when I look at the setback exemptions, I mean, this is within the setback exemption range. So, from that perspective, it sort of fits the concept of why we have setback exceptions rather. I mean, it's generally low. This isn't like a big house also going in that area. So it also seems, quite reasonable use of the setback exemption really for an in-ground pool and, some of the barbecue pieces. Frankly, the ADU is the piece that encroaches, and that's out of our hands anyway. So, this is less encroaching than that. So it also seems like in the context of the site, this isn't really even an encroachment, right? Because it's like, for all intents and purposes, it's lower than the minimum setback. So, from all those perspectives, it seems quite reasonable. No neighbor concerns, so I don't see any reason to not apply setback exemption. This is the reason it exists.
Richard?
So the project looks well designed. It's really nice, and I have no exceptions to it other than my comments regarding pool equipment. Just a clarification or just a little addition. If the equipment itself, the pumps are actually below ground and there is dirt, grade above it, then that would serve the purpose of a wall. I was looking at the side drawings, and that's probably the things that stick out from the ground are probably the filters, and they don't make any noise. So if the pumps themselves are below ground, that would fulfill the function of a wall, because most of the sound goes sideways, and if there's any sound that goes up, it'll go more up instead of going towards the neighbors if the pumps were exposed on the, just sitting on the ground. So my previous comments, I can withdraw from those comments if that is the case.
Yes, Peter, as the architect, could you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, that was our intent. That was our intent really was to keep all the noisy stuff low.
Okay,
The wall on the road side is about 2.5 feet up, so it's gonna buffer any of them. I agree. The only thing that's gonna make any noise is the pumps.
and the part that's going to stick and by far the tallest thing in there is going to be the filter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the
Filter and the
heater,
heater.
yeah.
I feel compelled to make one observation, which is out of respect for the applicant. Like, our job here is to, generally focus on the issues being decided. And we're making a fairly arbitrary judgment about this, where there is a decibel rating on this. And so, generally, in the interest of predictability and fairness to the applicant, I don't think we should be litigating and just sort of making judgments on sound attenuation beyond if we have data on the pool equipment. So, I mean, is that something we can just look at? Because with 100 feet and whatever the decibel rating is, like, I don't think it's fair to request additional construction at cost to the applicant if there's not a specific reason that we're leaning on.
I believe we've just withdrawn that and eliminated it.
Okay, I mean, but just generally in how we conduct ourselves, I think it's important.
It's something, fences can help attenuate sound, and it's something that can be looked at as part of a project. And in this case, it sounds like it may not be necessary.
So Richard, any further comments or?
No, very nice project.
Alex?
Oh, sorry, the microphone.
There you go.
It's especially for the people on Zoom because they.
No, I get it. Mina, I just want to welcome you and a family of 5 new to Woodside, and you saying that you feel at home, so welcome. My only comments, I agree with everything. My only comment to add is to make sure that the pool equipment storage, which is attached to the ADU, gets addressed, even though that's not part of this. I think from my part, on the first exception, the applicant demonstrates that the proposed exception will conform to the setback pattern of development in the surrounding areas. This is a very challenged site, and he's got a very limited envelope on which to accommodate a lot. And then the rest of the property is really left alone. So I think on the first exception, that's how I think about it. Of the other remainder of the exceptions, I mean, the other one that stood up to me is I think that the proposed exception will cause no significant negative environmental impact to the applicant's property adjacent properties or to the surrounding neighborhood and town. And then I'm in accordance with 3, 4, and 5. So I actually support this and want to I'll let Lyle go, but I'm in favor of making a motion to approve.
I support this as well, particularly since this is at the end of a private road. And given that the setback exemption we are providing is within the range of what's allowed, and it's also in conformance with the characteristics of the other properties in the neighborhood. So I will just leave it at that. And unless someone else would wish to comment, I would be open to someone making a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the setback exception requested.
I'll second it.
Chair Weaver,
Approve.
Vice Chair Gar, Commissioner Apfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonerko,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tuber.
Approve.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Luck to have a
Appreciate your
great
time.
living here.
And input.
Thank you.
Given that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the replacement and upgrading of culverts on Lawler Ranch Road, which for some reason we all have a problem pronouncing.
I'm going to say it about 40 times for you and see if I don't twist my tongue 50 of them. All right. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful start to your week. This evening, I'm going to be introducing an application for review and approval, conditional approval, or denial of a conditional use permit for proposal to replace 5 failed and failing culverts crossing under Lawler Ranch Road and site maintenance and emergency access roads, installation of improved roadway ditches upslope from Lawler Ranch Road, and maintenance of a portion of Lawler Ranch Road. Conditional use permit is required for this project, given that work is being proposed within a town designated stream corridor. Pursuant to determination made by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, this project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Class 1 California Code of Regulations, Title 15, Section 15301, and Class 33 California Code of Regulations, Title 15, Section 15333. There are no desk items associated with this agenda item submitted at this time. In November of 2021, Stanford purchased 5 vacant parcels previously referred to as the Sand Hill Estates, with a total land area exceeding 90 acres. The property contains over 60 acres in a conservation easement. While Stanford does own 5 contiguous parcels, previously known as the Sand Hill Estates, the proposed scope of work is fully encapsulated within the boundaries of 2 undeveloped parcels that adjoin to the southwest edge of Highway 280 and are bisected by Lawler Ranch Road, which are now referred to as 4 and 18 Lawler Ranch Road. The segment of Lawler Ranch Road that crosses through 4 Lawler Ranch Road serves as the sole point of ingress and egress to 1 Lawler Ranch Road, which is a developed parcel located west of the project area. Atherton Creek, a designated stream corridor pursuant to the stream inventory located in the Town of Woodside General Plan 2012, falls within the footprint of the proposed culvert replacement efforts. Pursuant to Woodside Municipal Code, Section 153.444, any alteration of or work in the stream corridor shall require approval of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission. The applicant proposes replacement of 5 failed and failing culverts located below Lawler Ranch Road and gravel dirt service roads that are utilized to access site maintenance areas for mitigation of wildfire risks and for emergency access to the vacant parcels through the former Sand Hill Estates. Culverts 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be replaced within or directly adjacent to the location of the existing on-site culverts that are being replaced, whereas culvert 1 will be relocated approximately 25 feet west of the culvert's present location in order to avoid tree roots associated with an existing 29-inch valley oak. The applicant has opted to utilize the largest possible culvert size for each culvert replacement location to maximize hydraulic flow and provide additional capacity for debris passage. The subject site does contain existing ditches along the west edge of Lawler Ranch Road, which are intended to gather and direct overland flow to the inlet of Culvert 1. The project engineer has noted that overland flows entering the existing ditch to Culvert 1 have experienced a significant increase in volume for flow due to site channel dynamics, and the 270-foot long segment of the ditch shall be repaired and concrete lined to ensure that the total amount of overland flow gathered by the ditch from the on-site 15-acre watershed area does not result in site erosion. The existing roadway ditch will receive a new concrete top edge, as well as increasing the elevation of the top of the ditch to create a new ditch high point. In total, 680 square feet and 270 linear feet of the existing ditch shall be replaced with a new concrete ditch. The applicant proposes roadway maintenance along 1,231 linear feet of Lawler Ranch Road in conjunction with the replacement of Culvert 1, 2, and Culvert 3, with the goal of providing a minimum 12-foot roadway width and a maximum of 5-foot side slopes to encourage dispersal of rainfall runoff originating at the roadway surface. Of the 1,231 feet of roadway scope for maintenance, 805 feet of the roadway will consist of 12-foot segments, 306 feet of the roadway will consist of 14-foot wide segments, and 120 feet of the roadway will consist of transitions, ranging between 12 and 14 feet in width. 0.24 acres of land will be graded to accomplish the proposed roadway maintenance, and the grading associated with this project is not considered significant in terms of the capacity outlined by the Woodside Municipal Code. The proposed roadway maintenance material consists of scarified soil recompacted at 95% relevant compaction, and class 2 bed base rock compacted to 95% relative compaction as well. The Town of Woodside Public Works Department has completed review of the proposed roadway and has determined that it meets all town roadway width, slope, paving, and compaction standards. And the Woodside Fire Protection District has also completed preliminary review of the proposed improvements to Lawler Ranch Road and has determined that the proposal meets all requirements for emergency access to the site. The proposed project includes removal of 2 trees within the footprint of Culvert 3, 6 trees within and directly adjacent to the footprints of Culvert 4, and 1 tree south of Lawler Ranch Road and Culvert 5, for a total of 9 trees proposed for removal. Of the 9 trees proposed for removal, 6 are classified as significant trees per the species and size parameters established in Woodside Municipal Code, Section 153.005. The applicant has provided a comprehensive arborist report containing information on the surveyed species size and general conditions of the trees within the subject project site. And the arborist report has indicated that the applicant intends to set parameters for tree replacement based on recommendations made in consultation with the Town of Woodside Planning Department. Prior to submitting for building permits, the applicant shall discuss with the Planning Department to determine if on-site tree placement is in fact necessary. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife Streambed Alteration Agreement with Stanford University outlines several required site improvements measures that are needed to protect wildlife and fish species that have been potentially impacted by this proposed project. Pursuant to the site SAA, the applicant shall clearly adhere to the riparian restoration and monitoring plan submitted to CDFW, with a permittee being responsible for replacement planting, additional watering, weeding, invasive exotic eradication, and or any other practices to achieve the enhancement goals as described in the biological resource assessment report that was submitted to California Department of Fish and Wildlife. To satisfy the riparian habitat enhancement plan criteria required by CDFW and to mitigate on-site impacts to waters of the United States and waters of the state, the applicant has provided a habitat mitigation plan that will implement a 4,346 square foot habitat mitigation area along 220 linear feet of Atherton Creek. The applicant has proposed 3 construction staging areas, all of which fall outside of the boundaries of the town designated stream corridor. Pursuant to Woodside Municipal Code Section 153.437, the applicant has indicated that all construction staging and construction parking will take place outside of the drip line of significant trees, and construction parking will take place outside of the drip line of significant trees, and all staging will take place outside of that drip line as well. The proposed scope of work will warrant a temporary closure of Lawler Ranch Road, which is the sole road utilized to access the developed and occupied parcel at 1 Lawler Ranch Road. Given that the closure of Lawler Ranch Road will impact access to the existing home at 1 Lawler Ranch Road, the applicant proposes utilization of an existing 10-foot wide access road for a temporary access driveway to 1 Lawler Ranch Road during construction. Prior to initiating work that will result in the closure of 1 Lawler Ranch Road, the applicant shall communicate with the owners of this property to clearly convey construction schedules and to provide alternative site access information that can be used throughout the duration of the road repairs and culvert replacements. The applicant should also comply with all conditions of approval as outlined by the Woodside Fire Protection District so that emergency services can readily access 1 Lawler Ranch Road in the event of an emergency during the tenure of construction. As aforementioned, this project requires approval of a conditional use permit pursuant to Woodside Municipal Code Section 153.444, as the scope of work involves work within a town designated stream corridor. The municipal code allows the Planning Commission to approve a conditional use permit so long as the following findings as outlined are met. So brief outline of that was provided in the staff report. If you want any clarification on these required findings, feel free to ask, but otherwise I'm just going to go through our findings. And if you have any outstanding questions, let me know. Happy to help. So after reviewing the proposed project, staff does believe that the provided project plans meet the required findings to grant a conditional use permit for work within a town designated stream corridor. A brief summary of the basis for findings of approval is as follows. The project is consistent with the intent, purpose, and objectives of the Woodside General Plan, Safety and Circulation Guiding Principles, as well as the general plan's goals of balancing circulation system user needs and maintaining a safe and convenient roadway system while preserving the town's rural and scenic character. The proposed culvert replacement, roadway ditches, and roadway restoration work do not directly require utilities or other services to accompany their installation. However, the installation of these infrastructural improvements do directly improve the accessibility of emergency and maintenance services when access to Lawler Ranch Road is required. The proposed culvert replacement, road maintenance, and ditch improvements ensure that Lawler Ranch Road, a private roadway serving as the sole point of ingress and egress for developed parcel at 1 Lawler Ranch Road, can meet the day-to-day circulation needs of the neighborhood, as well as ensuring adequate emergency and maintenance access. 4 and 18 Lawler Ranch Road are adequate in size, shape, and topography to accommodate the proposed site use. The proposed road maintenance project will increase the width of 1,231 linear feet of Lawler Ranch Road from its existing substandard widths to proposed widths between 12 and 14 feet, thus bringing the road into compliance with both the Town of Woodside roadway standards and the Woodside Fire Protection District roadway standards. The location of the proposed replacement culverts, roadway ditches, and roadway restoration work, and the proposed construction methods that will be implemented during this project will not result in impacts to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing within the project vicinity. And restoring access to the peripheries of 4 and 18 Lawler Ranch Road, which are currently impassable due to culvert failure, directly increases the health, safety, and general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity. A site maintenance in the form of vegetation management and removal of invasive species can directly decrease fire fuel loads, and access to all portions of the properties ensures that action can be taken quickly in the event of an emergency, such as an on-site wildfire. If the Planning Commission concurs with the analysis of the required findings for conditional use permit, the Planning Commission should adopt the draft resolution provided by staff, which would result in project approval. If you have any alternative opinions based on the draft resolution, we're happy to go through those alternative options as well. Members of the project team for Lawler Ranch Road culvert replacement, road repair, and ditch repair project are present at the meeting should there be any questions pertaining to the proposed project details. And the project team will be providing a brief presentation on the project's scope of work shortly. The staff is happy to answer any additional questions should you have any for us. Thank you.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff?
None for me.
Question on the zoning code, but I'll hold my tongue because I just saw that the state and there's lots of exemptions made for projects like this that improve a stream corridor, whereas our code is requiring a CUP, which seems like a lot of regulation for something that's like a very logical exception the state has made. So if there's any opportunity to look at the code in that respect, I would encourage that.
I would not disagree with that statement. If that is it for commissioners' questions to staff, we can go ahead and start the applicant presentation.
It was impressive.
Great job.
I think you get a 9.9 out of 10, Gillian. The going in part is correct. Whether I could actually parrot it back remains to be seen.
Okay. Yep, I see it now.
No.
It's going to be impossible. So here I am. Now I can share my screen, I guess. Sorry for the delay. Finally.
Making progress.
Well, I'll just keep it-
Awesome.
I'll just keep it on this stage since I don't know if I can put it into full screen mode. My name is Matt Smeltzer. I'm a engineering consultant working for the applicant, and I've been working on this project for about a year. And I started meeting with Jillian and Sage last summer, and they've been really good to work with.
Get the mic
Um,
up a little higher.
We've
Sorry.
had a,
Press that red, so the microphone there, the
Oh.
And it'll move up and down.
oh, this one.
And I'll move up the.
Oh. Okay. Closer to, like this? Okay.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, everyone. So I'm
That's
just,
better.
what I'm gonna do today is just show you photographs basically of these culverts. It's not a very exciting conversation unless you really like culverts like I do. But here we are, so first here's a air photo of the site. This is the paved section of Lala Ranch Road, and there's a gate here. And then there's a gravel driveway that Jillian described. It's about 1,200 feet long. And then it transitions to a paved driveway as it goes up the hill towards One Lala Ranch Road. And there's 3 culverts along the gravel part of the road that I'll show you pictures of. And then there's 2 other culverts which are on the main stem of Atherton Creek that are on smaller roads that are historically existing at the site and used to access the sort of the northern parts of the site. They're really the only ways to get vehicles to parts of the site. And right now they're not passable. The culverts are completely destroyed. The applicants understands their responsibility is to maintain safe access, usable access to the One Lala Ranch Road resident through the parcels that the applicant owns. And that's really the purpose of the project. 1, access along the gravel driveway, and then 2, replacing those other 2 culverts to access the other parts of the property for maintenance. So as you come into the site, I know one of the commissioners was there today, so this will look familiar. As you come in from the gate, from the paved section of Lala Ranch Road, you see about half of the road there in front of you. And culvert 1 is the first culvert you come to. You can see there's a steel plate there because the culvert is it's basically smashed. If we could go inside it, we'd see the ceiling of the culvert is smashed down. The bottom is rusted out, and the roadway is collapsing on top of it. And Jillian mentioned the ditch. Oops, sorry. This is the ditch running along the roadway uphill from culvert 1, and you can see that over time it's just taken on so much water that it's cut down and it's become a bit of a hazard. In addition, you can see here, this is a photo taken during a rainstorm. You can see quite a bit of water in the ditch, but you can also see quite a bit of water running down the roadway. That's because the roadway over time has just lost its correct slope and needs to be maintained. So more exciting photographs. More exciting photographs. Here's culvert on the way to culvert 2, which is in the background of this photograph. Yet again, another culvert that's, same condition. It's undersized, it's rusted out, it's crushed. There's only about 6 inches of cover on top of it. There's really not a stream coming into it. It's really just draining this ditch. And on the other side, you see it forms a small stream, but that stream just dissipates and goes off into the meadow. A little bit farther down the road, zooming in here, as you go past culvert 2, you go down to a little bit of a draw where there's a oak woodland and a pond at culvert number 3. This one's a little more complicated. Those first 2 culverts are really kind of basic replace, and it's not hard to replace them with something really close to the existing culvert. But culvert 3 is a little more complicated. This is turning back and looking the other direction. There's a pond on the uphill side, which is the right side of the photo. The culvert controls the elevation of the water in the pond. It's quite a steep culvert because of the way that the roadway forms a pond. The roadway, in effect, is an embankment. It's not a dam, but it's holding back some water. So there's a lot of seepage of water through the embankment. Makes it a little bit more challenging. So yeah, here's the inlet to that culvert. It's in really poor condition, as you can see. It's just rusted out. Water doesn't really go through this culvert anymore. It kind of goes well, it goes through the culvert into the ground below the culvert and comes out the other side. And so the downstream side, I bet most of the time water's not actually issuing out of that culvert. It's it's seeping through the embankment. And you can see the tree roots are all tangled around the outlet of this culvert. And this is one place where we had to remove a couple trees. 2 trees we removed at culvert 3. You can see they're growing really close to the outlet of the culvert. And we actually did spend a lot of time trying to save these trees by, for example, you'd think you could move the culvert over to the north, just get away from the trees. We tried different things. But everything we came up with, the arborist said was going to likely cause the trees to just the disturbance alone was going to be too much for them, as they're very undermined and sort of hanging onto a little cliff there where the culvert has caused a hole in the ground. So we gave up on trying to save them and came up with a more straightforward design after that. So we're moving off into I mentioned there are 2 more culverts. I don't know if the commissioner made it to these. They're a little farther off the road. But there are these 2 roads that are really grassy. They don't really look like roads, but they are roads and formerly, and just don't get a lot of traffic. One of them is here to culvert 4, and then I'll show you the one at culvert 5. So culvert 4, I guess as of only 2 years ago, people said you could still drive over this culvert, but the embankment or the soil fill prism on top of the culvert is now completely gone. It was probably that storm of January 2023, March 2023, did the final job on this culvert. It's really too small. This is in the main stem of Atherton Creek, and it's a 4-foot diameter culvert. We were trying to get a 7-foot diameter culvert in here as a replacement, so to tell you how undersized this culvert is. So that's the inlet. So it's still kind of working, but it's still there, I should say, but there's no way to get a vehicle across it. I guess there was a steel plate there, but they ended up removing it after it caved into the hole there. So looking upstream from culvert 4, I just point out this oak tree because just by way of saying that we've worked really closely with the arborist, and that is a tree that we're going to try to save. We had to make some special engineering revisions to the design to limit how much grading would occur at the upstream end of the replacement culvert. And we're sort of coming up with custom designs for meeting engineering criteria that are not the standard design, so that we can keep the grading footprint as far away from the roots of that tree as possible. So there's going to be full-time arborist supervision during construction of this culvert for sure. And the other culverts we're also designing to avoid tree impacts. This is culvert 5. You can still get like an ATV across this culvert, I'm pretty sure. But it looks like this. It's also undersized. And this is a kind of an odd culvert because a lot of the time when flows are really high, the water's actually out in the floodplain and bypassing this culvert. It's just an oddity of the way the floodplain works there. But we're still putting in a full-size culvert that would handle the maximum flow there. And I guess I'll say, in general, our approach was to replace the culverts with something as close as possible to what the existing culvert is, basically a full in-kind replacement. But where we moved away from that were places where we were trying to avoid tree roots. And 2, California Department of Fish and Wildlife had really worked with us closely on this, and they kind of have stricter standards for culverts than the engineering department or any municipal engineering departments have these days. And they've really kind of forced us to use elliptical concrete culverts were sort of our only option for meeting CDFW requirements. So all the replacement culverts are going to be concrete, RCP, reinforced concrete pipes, which is actually great for longevity, and they hold up during fires. As we know, the plastic culverts can melt, and the metal culverts don't last very long. This culvert's probably only 40 years old. So I think Jillian mentioned that we've received all the environmental permits from state and federal agencies. Army Corps of Engineers, Regional Water Quality Control Board, California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Those all came in the fall, and we've shared those with the town. And I think my battery just died, so my presentation will have to be over.
Perfect
I
timing.
can, I know Jillian has the plans on her machine, and I can answer questions looking at the design plans if there are questions specific to the design. And I can also answer any of your other questions. And as well, we have, I have two people are on the call. Julie, I think Ramsey Schwedo. Ramsey Schwedo is a Sanford representative. He's on the call if you have any questions that you would like him to answer. And Brian Shedden is on the call. He's an engineer, associate engineer with my group, and he's here to answer any super technical questions that I can't answer quickly.
Are there commissioner questions for the applicant? Start with Alex.
So I just have an informational question.
Sure.
The bedding material that's around the concrete pipe,
Yeah.
what is that going to be?
Well, it's basically crushed rock, compacted.
So not dirt?
No. These trenches are going to be, there's going to be 12 inches of trench width on both sides and probably 12 inches of bedding material under the culverts. And that's all supervised by a geotechnical engineer. And so it's actually more detailed than you'd think. The bedding has to come up to a certain level with a certain level of compaction, and then we can get a little looser above that. But
Commissioner Gar or Commissioner Epfel?
No questions for me.
No questions, thank you.
No questions from the chair as well. So given that, I'm willing to open the public comment period for this item. And if there's anyone in the room or online that would like to speak, raise your hand either physically or electronically, please.
There are no raised hands.
Given that we have no raised hands, either physical or electronic, I will close the public comment period and open this for commissioner discussion.
I'll kick it off.
So I will take the silence as the fact that we are willing to approve the draft CUP as written.
Yes.
Someone can make a motion.
I'd like to motion to
You
culvert
could
replacement project to go ahead.
Is there a second?
Second.
Chair Weaver,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gar,
Yes.
Commissioner Apfel,
Yes.
Commissioner Gunnarco,
Yes.
and Commissioner Tauber.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That concludes the review, and there's a 10-day appeal period.
Thank you.
Enjoy your new culverts. Sage, did you have anything for us tonight?
I don't have any significant reports. I'll note that tentatively, we have the meeting scheduled for February 5th. We're hoping to bring back the discussion about barn conversions to ADUs, as well as we also, whereas we weren't actually this time going to do that, but a little bit more time, we also want to include some discussion about the height requirements for ADUs. I say tentative, just because there's some still internal discussions going on, and, I'll let you know if it gets postponed for any reason, but as of now, our plan is to bring that on February 5th.
So no meeting on the, just the.
Yeah, that's the next meeting, yeah.
Can I ask a question of staff? Yeah. Which is, when we do sort